The City of Emerald and the missing left eye of Jaya. This is what I'm going to try and solve in this video. Is the missing eye the City of Emerald, or is it another island? Welcome back to the channel that gives you the most idiotic and bewildering One Piece theories. So, how do we solve this mystery? Well, we first have to understand where Oda got the inspiration for the civilization that lived on this island. And we have to first look at Shandora. We know that Shandora is based on a Mesoamerican civilization, the Aztecs. We know this because of the buildings, their rituals, the gods they pray to, and the famous lost city of gold. But Shandora isn't the only Mesoamerican civilization that was on this island. There was another civilization inspired by Mesoamerica, and there is another inspired by a pre-Columbian empire. But what are these civilizations that once stood here, and what does it have to do with the City of Emerald? And why do I say two civilizations rather than one, as there is only one opening on this island? Well, here's the thing. People always focus on the left eye but forget about the mouth, or what we know as Jaya. Since I believe that each of these three parts are based on Mesoamerica and the pre-Columbian era, I can confidently say that Jaya is based on Maya, another great civilization that once stood in Mesoamerica. You can even hear it in the name. You get Jaya and then Maya, very evident in my opinion. But I am yet to figure out which race of people once lived here in One Piece. But I do have two ideas. The first one is that this was a trading port and many people used to sail here for trade, or this is the original home of the people who stay in Lodestar. The only reason this came into my mind is because we know that the Mayan civilization is responsible for coming up with the calendar by using the stars. So Lodestar could be a place that does this too, but there is not enough evidence for this. Now, moving on to the left eye. Yes, you guessed it, the left eye is based on a pre-Columbian civilization, and the civilization that once stood here was the great Inca Empire. The Inca Empire was an empire that stretched from the northern part of South America all the way to the southern parts. The people here also worshipped a sun god and other gods. They also had similar rituals. But is this great civilization Emerald City, and which country is it in One Piece? I currently have three countries in One Piece that are suitable to play the role of the Inca Empire. Firstly, I have the original homeland of the Lunarians, then the second is Wano, and the third is Zou. But why do I choose these three islands in particular? Well, they all have something in common, and that is the moon. Why did I choose the moon? Well, that is because of Shandora. The name given to this country was no mistake by Oda, as the word Shandora comes from the word Chandra, which means bright or shining, and in some Indian languages it means moon. What I also find fascinating is that a lot of attention and focus in Skypiea was about the moon. Enel's dream was to go to the moon, and even in the flashback between Noland and Kalgara, there is a lot of emphasis on the moon. We have a chapter called Full Moon, where in that chapter there were many panels given to just the moon. The following chapter is then called the Light of Shandora. There is definitely a connection between the moon and the golden bell, which we know as the Light of Shandora. So it is pretty evident that the moon is a very important figure, and by looking at Shandora we can safely say that the left eye is also connected to the moon. What I also find interesting is that when Noland arrived at this island it was a full moon, and when he left it was also a full moon. Noland spent one whole month in Shandora. This is the same amount of time that it takes for the Minks to use Sulong by looking at the full moon. Could Oda have been referencing the Mink tribe way back in Skypiea? This is something that I find fascinating. Now that we know the moon plays a significant role in linking these three countries with the missing eye of the skull, I can now discuss why each of them are a possible fit for the eye or even the City of Emerald. Let me start with the Lunarians. We know they were a race who were seen as gods and that they lived on top of the Red Line. But could it be possible that before ascending to the Red Line and being seen as gods, they were living amongst the people on the Blue Sea, in the left eye? But what could have made them move to the top of the Red Line, and is the City of Emerald their city? The Incan Empire was known for living on top of mountains, and if Oda is inspired by this empire, then there would be no surprise that the Lunarians are meant to represent this empire, as they too live on top of a mountain, the Red Line. My belief is that they moved up here as they saw themselves more superior to the other races in One Piece in the same way, and now wanted to live on the moon, or even how the celestial dragons live above in Meridua. But what connection could be made with the City of Emerald? Well, the fire that they conjure is not just for show. We know the Lunarians have a special ability that they can produce fire, and it is highly possible that they use this fire to make emeralds. Emeralds are gems that are produced by combining other minerals. They need extreme heat for them to mix together. And we see that King can make fire, so it's possible that the Lunarians built their homeland by mixing minerals with their fire and turning them into emerald. And then there is the mere fact that they are called Lunarians. This name is associated with the moon, and during the Anal cover story we see that the people with wings come from the moon. Again, another hint that the moon is very key in One Piece. But I am sure that this is not enough to convince you that the Lunarian homeland is the missing eye and the city of Emerald, but I suggest you keep watching the video. Now we will look at Wano. We know that the people of Wano are associated with the moon, as the samurai who are willing to rebel against Orochi use the crescent moon as their symbol. We also see the crescent moon on Oden's attire and also Lady Toki, so there is a connection to the moon as well. Then there is a connection with Shandora, as both of these countries are known as the City of Gold. But I highly doubt that Wano was located in the left eye, and I also highly doubt that this was the City of Emerald. The reasons why I believe that Wano was never located on the Skull Island is because, number one, the ingots that Robin mentioned back at Jaya. When she mentions them, she says a very important statement, and that is, these ingots are a sign of trade. It is highly unlikely that the people of Shandora traded amongst themselves, and I believe the nation they traded with were the Kuzuki clan from Wano. What indicates this is the gold and the fact that Kagura says that the last time they had visitors in Shandora was 400 years ago, which was during the period of the Void Century, and the poneglyphs were made around that time, so the people of Wano definitely did visit Shandora, and most probably they were allies. Now, I said that the gold indicates that Wano visited this country, but why did I say this? Well, that's because Wano is the true city of gold, and the gold on Shandora isn't theirs to begin with. I believe the Kuzuki clan traded their gold with Shandora and taught them how to trade in the same way Nolan came to Shandora and taught them how to evolve. Why do I say the gold isn't from Shandora? Well, that's pretty simple. Shandora has no mines, so where did they get the gold from? Well, obviously Wano. As we know, in Wano there are mines, and that is why Wano is the city of gold, because that's where the gold originates from. Reason number two why I believe Wano didn't share land with Shandora is that the Kuzuki or Wano are associated with a crescent moon and not a full moon. Yes, Toki does speak about the moon, but there is no connection to the full moon, as I believe that the city missing on the skull has to be associated with the full moon. And reason number three is Pluton. This to me is the best reason out of all three. I say that Pluton is a reason because I 100% believe that Pluton was actually a ship that the Kuzuki used to sail the seas, as I believe the Kuzuki clan were rather sailors and they traveled around the Grand Line forming relationships with many countries. The poneglyphs existence actually proves this point. We know the poneglyphs are texts that provide information on the forgotten history, and they were given to certain countries to protect it. It wouldn't make sense to give such delicate information to just any nation, and I believe the nations that have the poneglyphs were those that the Kuzuki met on their journey as sailors. They formed these relationships before the Void Century, and after the war against the Ancient Kingdom they sought out help from these lands they traveled to. Then there is also Oden's desire to travel, and I believe that he was just following the path of his ancestors as sailors, fulfilling their true will not as shogun but as a sailor. So I believe that Wano has always been in its current location and it has never been moved. So now we can finally talk about the Ming tribe, and this one was by far the easiest one to connect to the left eye. I believe that Makomo Dukdom was a part of the Skull Island, but do I believe that this was the city of Emerald? Well, keep watching to find out. The reason I believe that the Mings once lived here is that Zou has an interesting look to it. Firstly, the forest and the irrigation system. I believe that the forest in Zou is the same one that we see in Skypiea. They look very identical, and then there is the irrigation system in Karao City, which caught my attention because the Inca Empire was famous for their agricultural skills, and the system that the Mings made to adapt to Zonisha spraying water is a showcase of quality agricultural skill. Not only is this interesting, but the fact that they built this system in what looks like a pyramid shape. We know that the Aztecs, the Mayans and Incans built their buildings in a pyramid shape, and we also see this in Shandora. So there is clearly a connection here in the way they structure their buildings, and there's also the fact that besides the ancient kingdom, both Shandora and Zou are portrayed as ancient civilizations with great history behind their cities. Another connection that could be made is that it is said that the Mings pray to a number of gods, but it is never revealed to us which god specifically. Oda most likely hiding this information so that we don't make the connection between the Mings and Shandora, as I believe that they pray to the same gods. And there is the mere fact that the Mings are associated with the full moon, as they achieve their true power by using the full moon. There is also another connection that could be made, which is the Kuzuki clan. We know the Kuzuki and the Mings are very close. What if I told you that this connection happened around the same time when they met the Shandians for the first time? It is highly possible that these two cities once existed existed together at the same time on one island, and when the Kuzuki landed on Shandora and traded with them, they formed a connection with the Ming tribe who stayed on the other side. Yes, I 100% believe that Zou is the left eye. But why did they leave in the first place? This is the only thing that I truly can't wrap my head around, and I don't want to give you guys false information. I like to have some evidence for me to show you. Most likely this has to do with the crimes Zunisha committed. Now you're probably asking me, when the hell am I going to speak about Emerald City? And the time is now. Is Zou the city of Emerald? No. Yes, it is the left eye of the skull, but just like Shandora isn't the true city of gold, I believe that Zou is also not the city of Emerald, even if it is the left eye. So where is the city of Emerald? Well, the city of Emerald is actually the homeland of the Lunarians, which is called God Valley. Yes, I believe that God Valley is the homeland of the Lunarians and also the city of Emerald. So you have Shandora, which was removed from the face of the earth, and then you have God Valley as well, which was also removed from the face of the earth. So you have two missing islands and you have two cities with great treasure, one which is gold and one which is emerald. This is different from Loftail, as Loftail can actually be located on the blue sea through the use of road poneglyphs. I think it is no coincidence that Oda has two great cities with treasure and then have two missing islands. But why is this the homeland of the Lunarians? Well, because the Lunarians were seen as gods. I don't think it was called God Valley because of the celestial dragons. I think it got its name before the world government came into power, as this was truly the land of the gods, the Lunarian homeland, and they created this great city by mixing minerals using their fire ability, and this ability is what made them gods in the first place, as we know that fire is the power of both light and destruction. Emeralds are also known as the jewel of kings. Just as any other gemstone, emeralds are associated with kings, or in this case gods. But will we ever see this great land? Yes, we will, but I don't think Luffy will be the one to find it first. I believe that Blackbeard will find Emerald City. My reason for this is that when we are introduced to Blackbeard, Oda portrays them as opposites, and in the same arc we learn of these cities. I think Oda will continue the theme of them being opposites, having one find the land of gold and the other find the land of emerald, and then have both of them go for the One Piece. Something which I find pretty cool is the possible connection that these cities have with Rocks and Roger. As we know, Zabek is highly associated with God Valley, and Goldie Roger was known as Gold Roger. So you have one pirate whose name was Gold, find the city of gold, and then you have the other pirate whose name is Rocks, find the land of green rocks or gemstones. I find this to be a very cool detail if Oda does intend on making God Valley the land of emeralds. If you enjoyed this theory, believe me, more like this will come. Subscribe to the channel and like the video and share it with friends and family. This is Masquerade and I'm signing out. Peace.